in order to plan the next orders for the next trips. And in a way, there was so many different outcomes here. First of all, there was less food wastage. Secondly, they spent less money, but at the same time, they managed to get rid of all the food supplies. So overall, it was a fantastic in terms of, leading to efficiency and productivity of the business. And this sort of AI-based solutions, we know today can be used in many, many different cases.
Yes, I think that there are many cases of study. For example, there is Lego that they were about to go to bankruptcy, and suddenly they work a lot to digitalize everything. Now they have a lot of different projects. For example, they engage a lot the customers and the client to give their ideas, and that's really helpful. I think that that's a really good thing. We need to go, because as the pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, it accelerates what we have to go now. For example, now I have to speak with my family over the phone, so I don't know when it's going to be last. I think that we can go to the next question, which is about breaking the myth. So a lot of people think that probably it's just for big companies, or it's just for company that has a lot of revenue. But actually, I would like you to tell me, what do you think about the myth? Digital transformation will drain your budget. Digital transformation is just for small businesses. It's not for small businesses, just for big businesses. Or digital transformation only matters for IT companies. So Elvira, what do you think? Dr. Elvira, sorry, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I guess I will start with some interesting stats. I was looking at latest survey from Small Business Federation in the UK, and they did a survey about I think towards the end of 2020, just to measure, the impact of pandemic and how it, affected businesses' attitudes and uptake of digital technologies. And interestingly, 95% of small businesses in the UK said that they use at least two types of technologies. I mean, it could be having a website, or some kind of finance software, or software for HR. But actually 75% now use them from 4 to 7 type of different technologies within their business. Again, to gain maybe visibility for their business, having again website or social media presence, but also to achieve productivity and efficiency. Or for instance, like Tim said in the beginning, it's about people. So enable this kind of flexible work, which most of us, during pandemic, by default, we just had to implement something like this. So when we look at those solutions, most of them, if you think about, can be used with help of cloud-based technologies, or like subscription-led services. So those kind of products and services are very accessible to today. You don't have to purchase, IBM sort of computing lab or a software like back in days to really consider yourself digitally transformed business. Today, a lot of solutions are on offer, and you can always kind of have this. There are different freemium models where you can use a tool for free, and then of course, once you see the benefits of that tool, you can end up subscribing to other versions and getting other functionalities. So it's very important to understand that digital transformation, it's just about small changes. Having a website simply to gain more visibility for your business, clearly nowadays is not as costly activity as in the past. And there are solutions where, businesses can do themselves or do it yourself type of thing, where they can learn or easily use a platform to adapt it to their own advantage. The second myth, obviously, digital transformation isn't for small business. The first one is connected to second. Things like website or social media presence. Those are examples, to be honest, of what you might think, oh, is it really a type of digital transformation? It is, because if you just were operating in offline space and now you decided to kind of expand to new sales revenue streams and start selling in online space, for your business, it's going to be a digital transformation, because it gives you an opportunity to increase your profits. And of course, today we see that in many areas now, not just in IT, technologies are affecting businesses, laundry, I don't know, food, hospitality, tourism, you name it, it's everywhere. And I think COVID pandemic really pushed businesses to realize the potential or importance of technology. So the most important thing, of course, to realize that technologies is not something that only tech experts can deal with. Technology is something that needs to be embedded into organizational culture and processes, and it's very important to involve all people within company to engage with the technology. You shouldn't just have a website and kind of update it yourself and never, think about maybe this website serving the need of attracting new talent. So it's very important when you have a website to cater for different stakeholders. Could be suppliers, could be customers, could be employees, not just, one particular stakeholder. And obviously, naturally today, many businesses are looking at this increased demand for flexible work. So having these cloud-based solutions, secure cloud-based solutions, where when your employees are working from home, at least the data that is, floating around, it's in the secure space. And having, I don't know, even two-step of password authentication processes, things like this, I don't know, password security key apps today, those kind of things prevent businesses to have very substantial damages, which are associated with information that we're all using. And we are using data. We collect data from customers, we have data from suppliers, and our employees are constantly sharing data. So even, in that simple scenario, we see how critical is to have some kind of security cloud-based solution for any type of business. I don't know if I covered it all. I don't know. Tim, Terry, would you like to chip in?
I think from my perspective, what we've done is take a modular approach and fix one thing at a time, and you can manage the cost associated with that. And one of the things that I use, and referencing back to the pandemic, is if we think prior to the pandemic, a QR code, how many people would have actually been comfortable and familiar with a QR code? Certainly my parents would never have imagined using a QR code, and due to the pandemic, everybody's familiar with the QR code now. So just minor changes like that, if you can stack them on top of each other, you can make a significant transformation with relatively little cost and relatively little disruption. Also on the commercials, I think getting a partner involved, there's lots of creativity in terms of the commercial models. So you mentioned the subscription models, but we've got a revenue share model with our developers. So we were able to call on their expertise at a very, very low startup cost. And as we grow, they grow. And we've changed the model along the way, but there's lots of flexibility in this space and lots of creativity. So it shouldn't be a daunting task.
I think what you've got to remember at the end of the day is it's a customer experience that's key. And today, especially more than ever, people will spend more money for a better customer experience and are expecting a better customer experience, whether it be in a retail environment or in a business environment. As Terry's just rightly pointed out there, you know, he's made his business more effective by being easier to deal with moving forward. And our customer experience is becoming key when we're dealing with businesses every day. Take, for example, you want to buy some clothes from an online website. You don't particularly want to speak to anybody anymore. You want to order them, you want to have them delivered. You only want to speak to somebody when there's a problem. So those customer experience experts have to be better, or less of them sometimes, but they have to be better than the previous people that were in there, because they're handling the challenges that are going to come with the conversations that are coming through. Maybe putting sentiment analysis in there so you can understand how the feeling is coming from the client as well. It all comes back to customer experience for me. Can you do it on a different budget? Of course you can. Terry's just already proved that, but you can. You know, you don't have to spend a gazillion pound on it anymore. You know, is it for small companies? Of course it's for small companies. We have to compete with the bigger companies. We have to be more effective, and giving better customer service is a #1 priority for us in how we win our business better than the big boys. And thirdly, does it matter for tech? Is it only for tech and IT companies? No, you know, it doesn't matter what you sell to whoever you sell it to. Somewhere down the line, you'll be putting some digital transformation, and if you're not, you should be. You will be in some way, shape, or form. But it's always about just pushing that envelope a little bit further, the 1% and the 2%, because at the end of the day, the customer experience is the key. We will deal with people who deal with us better, and we will pay more money for it. Therefore, that's important.
And
Yes, correct. Sorry.
One very minor thing that we've introduced, it's not even cutting edge technology, it's just digital document signage. So in the good old days, somebody's going to have to sign it, find a stamp, walk to the post office. It's just inconvenient. A digital signature, it's quick, it's easy, it's efficient, and it's no disruption for the signee. So just small incremental changes like that can be transformational to your business.
Absolutely. We'll have to understand that in digital transformation, there are kind of this 3 level, isn't it? First one is digitization, like the processes that we've done in the past, you know, writing on a piece of paper, I don't know, having lots of folders like I have there at the back, and printing everything, taking this and transforming in a digital format. As many businesses actually started doing it, during pandemic, and for me it was a bit shocking because I thought it's just norm now to do everything digitally. So it's kind of taking the past and doing it in digital way. And then we have digitization, which is, finding new ways of doing things. So like this particular example, which Terry mentioned about, document signage, which is much more secure, to be honest. And, you can be confident still that person did this. There are so many different solutions to verify the identity as well. And of course, the next level is the whole digital transformation, which kind of talks about looking into building innovation and new type of products. And this is what small businesses need to understand. There are these little steps, but I think over the course of these steps, when your team becomes comfortable with technology, when you end up building these fantastic partnerships, you might start sensing new opportunities for your business. We see so many groundbreaking things, or, just simple things like using TikTok made a huge difference on this mochi ice cream company. I don't know if during pandemic you were crazy to get hold of mochi ice creams in Tesco, because TikTok just made it viral and nobody had a clue what the mochi ice cream is, before, prior to that. So, not being on TikTok for certain small businesses could really losing out on opportunities to talk to younger generation, for instance. And like Tim said, it's the customers, isn't it, who drive this whole thing, because all of people today in their everyday use technology. We watch movies on Netflix, we order food online, everything is so tech enabled. Not understanding that will kind of mean you might not potentially understand in future, not just your customer, but even people who will work in your company, because there is a new talent coming in, which obviously is quite familiar and excited about technology.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that is really important right now, and everything it is everywhere. Is if you are going to travel, you have the ticket on your phone. You don't have anymore the tickets printed. So there are a lot of changes that are happening right now, and obviously it's everywhere. Now we go to the next question, which is, what should business consider, and what success metric should they put in place to understand the effects of using the new technologies and measuring the legacy technology? So that will be for Elvira too. We basically want to know what can we do to know where we are, and what can we do to go further?
It's an interesting question. Of course, it will depend what technologies you are adopting. But to be honest, let's just talk about simple matters that for many businesses probably will be applicable. Let's say you are using some subscription-based technology or cloud-based solution to store your files and operate in virtual cloud space, when people are working from home, and then high practices when they come to office and go back to home. You start thinking, okay, does it make difference apart from, of course, there are different ways of doing it. You could talk to your employees and ask, qualitative ways of finding out whether this makes them fulfilled, maybe helps them to do their job better, and whether perhaps it makes them feel more satisfied in terms of finding that work-life balance. There are qualitative ways of simply going, just talking to your team and asking how this technology made a difference. And same can be done with customers, isn't it? If we introduce newer communication channel, I don't know, a podcast, going to your customers and asking whether podcast made a difference, for their understanding of the products or understanding of business, could be a fantastic way of really seeing whether it makes a difference on a certain person. But it's also a nice thing to think of potential matrices. So one metrics that comes to my mind is like active usage metrics, because sometimes companies will introduce a technology. Some technologies are by default essential, especially now with pandemic, when people needed to work from home. A lot of these cloud-based, flexible, remote working solutions were obviously must use. And especially if there are procedures in your company where people required just to operate in that technological space, they have no choice. So probably in that case, the usage of the software will be quite high. But sometimes, you might introduce a certain additional application, mobile application that you want your employees to use, maybe to create a creative content for their websites. And then you see that actually you're paying money, but it's only 1 people out of 10 in creative team using that particular technology. That obviously will allow you to see that actually perhaps the usage is so inactive in this particular case, because employees find it challenging to use technology, or maybe they find it useless. Maybe there are alternatives. So it's all about understanding the use and then what it can lead to. You can, of course, look at user and participation level. It's, at the matrix that technology dashboards that it can provide to you. So for instance, if you are using social media, you will actually see are people engaging with it. And if you, or maybe you need to consider changing your strategy in order to gain engagement. But as if you see that nothing works, in terms of your efforts to increase that engagement, you probably should consider whether this platform is the right type of channel to talk to you or reach out to your audience. So, looking into technological data insight solutions which are on offer there by default, is important. There are other, things such as like digital adoption platforms, and I know a couple of the platforms that small businesses are using, like such as Whatfix or Pendo, or there is a lot around user experience. And those kind of softwares, they basically enable you to integrate all your communication channels within one system, and they also have functionalities, additional functionalities, such as data analytics, which allows you to basically, crunch the insights and make sense of what you are gathering. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's not as often companies use this sort of technologies. But like I said, I think the key things is usage. So, see how well the technology is adopted by either your customers or your employees or your stakeholders. And then, of course, look at engagement itself, how it is used, and whether it does lead, to certain change in the performance, for instance, in your profits, in your number of new customers that you are gaining, or retention of customers.
I'll give you an example of that quickly if I can. If you look at the adoption of Microsoft Teams across the planet, especially in the UK, well, across the globe, but talking about the UK especially, you look at the data analytics and the business intelligence that you can get off the back of it is incredibly important when people are working from home. They never used to work from home as much, now they do. One of the areas that we're concerned about is, as an example, when we crunch that data and have a look at it, understand their analytics around it, how long are they working for? How long are they logged on for? What device are they logged on to? And how long are they logged on for? And is that going to cause us a health and safety issue later on down the line? Or actually, is the person actually working at all? Do we know that? Do we know what's happening around it? There's both ends of that spectrum. But understanding the data that comes out of that and of the technology that comes out of it allows us from the data analytics to be able to make some decisions utilizing the technology. So that's just a really basic, simple, example of how we use it here.
Absolutely, definitely great example. I mean, I know, and this is, like we said, it's not just about purely looking at timings, because actually maybe person in 1 hour at home, when, no disruption of pets or children, could do more work done than whether they will be in office, let's say, for 2 hours, because there are, we are, humans, it's all about relationship. We tend to go for a small chat with our colleagues. So lots of different disruptions happening in our physical spaces, isn't it? So, but at the same time, we understand that working from home, it's again a different thing. So it's not just about purely looking at analytics, but also looking at analytics and having after that follow-up conversations with your teams, because perhaps you could, as a result of it, establish some form of, documentation or a policy or a guidance around this flexible remote working process, where there are certain rules perhaps, or certain guidelines of what needs to be done. So people understand that if they work from home, this is the priority, as opposed to me sitting in Teams online and doing nothing for many hours, but actually using Teams for productive purposes. So yeah, that's an important thing, I think, not just looking at the insights, but do a follow-up conversation with your teams.
No, and I understand that, but the challenge around it is making sure you understand the data that comes out of it. You need the data first before you can make any changes, and consequently that allows you to have a look at the data.
And it's a funny data, isn't it? I mean, it can actually bring up on the surface some issues.
Well, of course, but that's the challenge, isn't it? That's why we run businesses. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're looking after our colleagues, and we make sure we're looking after them in the best way. And that's both ends of the spectrum. If we've got 20 people in a team and 18 people are working and 2 people aren't, there might be a challenge around those 2 people not working for whatever reason. But we need to know, we need to understand that, and consequently, we also need to know if they're working 16 hours a day instead of 8. We need to know that as well. So then the data is important, and if you can pull the data, you can then do something with it, and I think that's important.
I mean, I'm sure you all had this funny situations where you will be in a team with, let's say, 20 people, and then someone is talking, and then you end up asking one of the people, randomly selecting them a question, and that person just not connected because they ended up, switching off their cameras, muting the voice, and just going somewhere, dashing off, having a coffee break or something else. So it's a very funny situation, isn't it, we're living in? And now I think coming back to physical spaces after this relaxed way of working, again teaches us something. We changed as human beings and the way we operate. So yeah, it's really a fascinating thing, which sometimes we just don't think about.
And I think that adaptability is critical, because the things that people were comfortable and thought that they enjoyed prior to the last 2 years could be very different from now, and in different teams. Some, we've got the challenge now about the return into the office. Some people are so excited and can't wait to get back into the office and have their desk back because they've been on the kitchen table for 2 years. Whereas other people, that the prospect is, quite frankly, a little bit daunting for them, because they've, particularly younger employees who haven't got the length of experience of being in an office environment. That's a challenge. So I think being adaptable and using the technology to facilitate that adaptability is critical.
Absolutely. And also, as a result of pandemic, we see actually many businesses realizing the potential, isn't it? Tim said about this whole kind of breaking down the geographical boundaries. And today, you can hire an amazing talent for your company, which is based in sub-Saharan Africa, I don't know. And of course, you have to understand that these people probably will end up living there still, but still can operate and be part of your team. So what sort of solutions are there that will ensure that they are feeling that they're part of the team as well? And I think, again, going back to, consumer, today, I think the changes in consumer side really forces businesses to adapt, because again, I spoke at the beginning about Metaverse, something that at the moment maybe for businesses doesn't really make sense. But actually consumers, Facebook users, all the social media users, youngsters are moving into that space where they kind of do it for entertainment purposes. But we also see many businesses realizing that this potentially could be another interface where you have to have a presence and find a way of using it for your business. And we see many businesses building up, presence in virtual spaces. So yeah, it's very important to see how your customers and what they're doing, and kind of see what's the value of what technology they're using, and integrating those technologies in your processes.
So I think that, yeah, is very valuable what you mentioned, that we need to obviously consider what the employees and the customers or clients are thinking about ourselves, our companies, and also to have a measure, like follow the measure what is happening. And yeah, that's something that obviously quality we need to always consider about that. Also, about what Terry mentioned about adaptation, I think that is a bit about Darwin. I know that I'm talking about biology, sorry. But the thing is, we need to always adapt to the transformation. So we need to always go to something. And even though you don't have anything, you can have, for example, an implant from technology. So I think that we are moving forward to the technology everywhere, in every aspect of our life. So that's something that we really need to consider. The adaptation is really important to go to the digital transformation. I think that we can finish this webinar talking about which is the future of the technology, of the 4IR. How can we interpret that, and how can we move forward to that process? Tim, can you please tell us about this?
I'll try. I'll try and give some insight if I can. I go back to the point I made right at the beginning, was we've got to live and work and relate to each other differently moving forward. And I think that's really, really important for us as countries develop. The scale and the speed that they're going to develop allows us the technology that we want to build to be slightly differently. So let me give you a couple of examples of how I see us sort of moving differently with the times and where I think we might go. If you look at, we talk about edge technology, you spoke about it earlier around, you've got a ticket on a phone as an example, right? And you normally would print it out and we'd take it, even in the last 12 months where you'd normally get on a plane, you'd print your boarding cards out and etc. etc. Now you've got it all on a phone. So that edge device that you use is going to be more and more key to us as 5G technology comes into play across the cities and how that works. And I think we're going to see a lot more of edge technology use, compute use, however we're going to do quantum computing, whatever else we might want to do around that, to allow us to be, we're going to have to be faster, we're going to have to process it faster, there's going to be a lot more data around, we're going to have a look at it. Supply chain, you know, with the supply chain, we've seen it already, that we've already seen the production moving closer to demand. We've seen that already. You know, we've seen that order fulfillment's faster. I talked about that earlier around how we as individuals want to buy something and how we expect it to get delivered. We can talk about Amazon, whether you like them or whether you don't like them, and whatever it is around that, to the cows come home. However, you know, you order something, it's delivered in 24 hours, someone drops it off. The process of how that works is astounding, really. Now you can go get your shopping and not even pay for it and just walk out. You know, so there's loads of areas where we're seeing that order fulfillment a lot better. Social responsibility is going to be key to this moving forward, and people are going to walk and talk with their hearts and their minds and their feet with regards to whether they want to do business with people. We're seeing it at the moment with what's going on in the world right now, whether people want to be associated with certain brands that are in certain countries, and whether certain brands want to be in certain countries now moving forward. And I think that corporate and social responsibility is going to be a lot more key for us moving forward. And I think as employers and business owners, we have a responsibility around not just internally but externally to deliver that. Metaverse, interesting piece for me. I think here with technology needs to catch up with the concept. Will it work? Absolutely no idea. It's interesting. You've got people like Adidas and Warner Brothers at the moment who are buying space in the metaverse for advertising. Because their eyes are on it and spending millions and millions of dollars on it. NFTs is the same, you know, similar thing. I'm not going to say I get it, I understand it, but people are spending millions and millions of dollars on them. So there's a change around that. And I think, you know, the culmination of those things, if you've heard of it, you might have seen the advertisements on TV, is a city that's being built in the northwest part of Saudi Arabia called Neom. And if you've seen that city, and if you've seen the things around it, you know, it's the size of Belgium that they're building. They're spending $400 billion on building it. Again, whether you like Saudi Arabia, whether you don't, you look at the tech that's being built there as to being a totally green city, totally renewable energy that sits in there. No transport, no cars. It's all transport internally. It's a different kind of world that's being built there, and maybe it is a future. It certainly looks like it might be to me. But the changing the tech has been able for them to deliver that. And I think some of the parts that I've just highlighted there, where you get the edge technology, supply chain, responsibilities, different whether you're going to go there or not, digital cities, the 5G and that sort of stuff. I think that culmination of that brings it together. So where do I see it? I don't really know, if I'm being honest. I've not a clue. There's some things that I like and some things that I don't. But I definitely think that technology has to catch up with the concept. And I think we're getting there. The speed of compute will help us get there, and the speed of networks, as Terry said right at the beginning, of being able to process that data is really, really important. So that's a quick overview from me of what I think may happen. I'm not a futurologist. If I was, I'd be a billionaire by now, wouldn't I? I'd be sat on an island somewhere. So those are my sort of thoughts and processes around.
And I think it's critical about the catching up. So just one very practical personal story is I've just taken delivery on a digital vehicle, so an electronic vehicle. So before then, you know, I had no idea where the charging locations were, the complications around it, and that's a real eye opener because the technologies, the working interfaces, even the connectors, you know, are still not ubiquitous. So, you know, it's not really exactly cutting edge technology, but the supporting infrastructure and mechanisms and partnerships are lagging behind, and that's going to hold things back unless something different happens.
I agree. I'm glad you've got one, Terry, because mine's a year in being delivered, mate. Mine's still late. So I'll come and talk to you when we get all your challenges out of the way, and I'll come and talk to you about it.
Yeah, you need to download about 35 different apps for the charging location.
But do you see, like, the beauty, I guess, I mean, the value in all of this comes in data, isn't it? Like, by the way, this Saudi Arabian city, they are looking for volunteers apparently. So, you know, you can leave all your life in the UK behind and go and join the new city and become new citizen. Apparently, all expenses paid for, you have fantastic lifestyle. You know, within that city, the idea is that most of like service routine type of jobs will be done by robots, isn't it? But I was thinking, actually, how would this society operate in terms of their, you know, what will be the value, really valuable thing that they can use in exchange? And I thought probably data. You know, you can maybe start selling chunks of your data for a cup of coffee. I don't know. You know, sharing data in future could be possibly a most important type of transaction between customer and business. And speaking of data, something I really wanted to highlight, that every single SME, you know, no matter what you do, even if you just use emails for communicating with suppliers, actually today many businesses use WhatsApp, you know, chat technologies to send quickly photos of payslip or, you know, invoice, and kind of everything is operated, like Tim said, on our mobile devices. You can do a quick settle of payment in your online banking. Done. You don't even log in anymore into your desktop technologies. But of course, this means a lot of this data is everywhere. And I think every single small business definitely need to prioritize the whole security, you know, compliance aspects, how you actually store your data, how you collect your data, and how you use your data. Very important, because latest data stats shows that 49% of businesses still don't know what is GDPR. They know the letters GDPR. Some of them have no idea what it stands for, and actually they obviously don't understand the principles as well. And so many businesses we know have this very stupid data leakages, where let's say it's actually not just your company that may be led to your customer data being leaked, but it's your supplier. Because if you share your customer data with your supplier, you obviously care about your own security infrastructure, but you might not really think or know what your supplier is having and how they store data. And actually them causing a leak could be a problem for you. So it's very complex kind of ecosystem. It's important to understand that those things matter for every single business.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone, for tell all this information about the digital transformation. I think that has been a great conversation that we had about what can we do, where we are, where the business are, how can we qualify the progress of the business, and of course, how can we go or move forward to the digital transformation and make it right. Is there anything else that you think that it will be valuable for today? Are you happy with everything?
Always happy.
I don't know if there were any questions.
That's we finished.
Okay.
No more questions. We now know which is the future of the technology is a bit uncertain according to Tim. There are a few things like Metaverse, and you mentioned about this city that we are planning to have in the world. But I think that probably the cloud is really, really, really important and necessary right now. This is one of the most important things about technology. So it's very, very good that we have you here. And also, obviously, we always have to think about the regulations and how to avoid the misunderstandings. So I think the trenches law is very important to have it here. And obviously, Bournemouth University education, and be always focus on what is the reality and how to progress on knowledge is really important for every company and everyone. I just have to say thank you very much for your participation. It has been a great meeting that we had today, a great webinar. We had a few visitors today, attendees. And I just have to say to the attendees to please go to our website and follow our social media. And of course, sign in for the next webinar, that it will be the 26th of April. Thank you very much once again, and have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.